Okay, so it's early morning Saturday, and sorry if it's a little bit echoey. I moved my ever so transient reloading bench, which is just a table that's reinforced by 2x4, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. So these were on sale, and these are 7mm Mauser, and so I decided to invest in some, both to try out Nosler brass for my rifle, but also just to see how off-the-shelf ammunition did. Well, this is very interesting packaging. I kind of like that. But, I mean, you can pack something as nicely as you want, but if it doesn't work with crap, well, you get the point. It's an interesting little crimp there. And these are the E-Tips. Brass colored primer. So I'm wondering if they used Remington or something like that. Could be just a wash. You never know. Feels deeper than usual. Anyway, so we have our micrometer zeroed. So just for funsies, let's see how they did. And it looks like I'm gonna have to move my coffee here. This actually surprises me. It's seated a bit shorter than usually what even I do. So let's see here. 2.947. Pretty much on the dot there too. I'll have to try to keep it straight like this. Okay, so that's one. We'll go ahead and do the whole batch 20. Why not? Move it around a little bit just in case we don't have it set. So that looks like just over the 5. Wow, it's actually harder looking at both at the phone camera and the dial itself. Just a shade over 3. So right there we have kind of a swing of 3,000ths. That's actually not terrible. That's still, people consider that within the realm of precision. But this one is, I got that right? Shade over 2. So there we officially hit the 4,000 mark. So this is where people start to kind of hem and haw. At least people I've run into. I by no means know every single human part of the precision reloading community. This one's at the 3. And of course you have to take into account the human element of it, but yikes, okay, so that one's out to 48. Which, touch over 47. .46. So I have a feeling we pretty much have a swing here of about, we can call it 100th, which isn't terrible. Is it like true precision? No. But, you know, for factory ammunition, that isn't bad. Let's see here, 46. Oh, wow. Gotta make sure I have it on there flat. And no, I don't have something that measures off the ogive yet. I'm working on it. Yeah, so that one's out to 51. So that's the longest yet. 46. 44. So 42 has been the shortest, if I remember correctly. 51, 46. Now here's the thing, these actually all could be seated, perfectly fine. It could be, oh, another one, this one's 50, okay. Check that again, yeah, 50. It could just be the minor variations of the bullet or the aluminum tip that they have here. Although one of the reasons why they use the aluminum tip is because they can try to machine it out to a more precise tolerance. It's easier to do that than trying to form, there we go, 6, a copper jacket around a lead core, even if you're pouring in the lead core to create some sort of bond. 46. It's also why you have a growing trend in the, we'll go ahead and say the ballistic tip, but you know, the polymer tip. It's an easier and perchance more effective way to get a more uniform tip. Ooh, another one at 51. So if the shortest was 52, the longest we have 51, of which we had several. So that's a swing of just under 100th, so 9 thousandths. And that's not terrible, that's not bad. Now, another thing we're going to look at, just for funsies, is, oh, wow. Okay, this is take 2. So we just finished measuring the length of these, as well as the neck diameter of the loaded round. And roughly it's been coming out to about 312. This one actually is coming out a little bit more than that, 313. And Nosler, like, I'm not sure what they use for reforming, but this feels rough. This feels textures. Like it almost feels gritty and grainy. So we'll see how it performs on the range, but I wanted to compare this to some of the rounds I've loaded and also show you why bushing dies are becoming more of a popular thing. Okay, so this is my normal brass. And the problem we've been having recently is that when we use our Forster seeding die, that with some bullets, there's a lot of tension, like a lot of neck tension. There's a lot of resistance. And it's actually, the die has been deforming some of the bullets. So actually I've had to reload some to kind of redo some testing. But I'm going to show you why. So this is brass that is newly formed, hasn't been, I've prepped it in the sense I've put it through the resizing die, I've trimmed it, but it hasn't been fire formed yet. And that's what we're doing now. So, and this is why. So whereas the Nosler came out at 312, 313, this came out at a little over 320, and that feels smooth. Like I barely even need to do anything to it. Now this is part of my tests, because that normal brass, since it's so thick and there's so much neck tension, despite putting it through my seeding die, the neck walls are noticeably, like you can even, just by looking, it's not as substantial. The Norma is on my right. The Hornady is on my left. And you can see, and I think the thickness turned out to be, I think this is more like you know what, I'm not going to try the recall from memory, because this was about 320, right? 320, 321. Look at that. 309. And but again, because I put it through the neck resizing die, like it feels almost perfectly smooth. But then again, this is not really the tool to be using that for. This is just your standard micrometer. It's not a vernier mic, whatever you want to call it. But still, the difference is very impressive. But also, you saw that 309 versus 320. So 11 thousandths of a difference. This is why bushing dies are becoming a thing. But the inside diameter, because of that, the expander ball, should ideally be the same, but because of brass spring back, and I mean, usually ends up being like a thousandths or two. That's why the way you choose a bushing, like for this one, I mean, for starters, you'd be like, okay, this is 309, I need to order 307. And well, of course, you'd measure all of your loaded bullets and take an average. But that's just an example. For this, if I were to be using Nosler brass and assuming my average came out to the, let's go ahead and call it at 313, then I'd want to go with 311. There you go. Anyway, so we're going to go out to range today. We're going to test this. We're going to have fun. And I might save one of these to pull apart, but otherwise we're going to see how my 7mm Mauser does with some expensive, at least, maybe not necessarily quality, but expensive off-the-shelf box ammo. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. 7mm Mauser, ox the shelf, great. Out of the box ammo, Nosler, 140 grain, going 2700. Wow, when it leaves the muzzle. We'll see though, because I'm not sure what they said the barrel length of whatever test rifle they used was. So let's just load up 5, and I'm gonna reuse some of the targets. I was doing some testing with the 22s earlier, but let's see how it goes. And I'll place this right. It's probably gonna get knocked down, but whatever. Okay. By the way, I've cleaned the rifle. This will include cold bore shots. So, well, it's just going to be a fun time. Deep breaths, no pressure, and hopefully it doesn't explode in my face. Brass looks good. Primers look good. Powder's burning clean. Might have accidentally shot at the middle target. Whatever. Oh. This primer almost looks like it has some slight cratering. That's very worrying. This one's cratering too. Let me show you that. So bright out, I can barely see my screen. Anyway, let's take a walk. God, I hope I didn't switch up what target I aimed at. Whatever though, I still have 15 more shots. It's all part of the learning process. And really the reason why I bought these is because one of the people I was talking to said, you know, you always show your hand loads. Why don't you show off how your rifle actually shoots? Yeah, it looks like I did. No. So either I fired 2 at the center target, or that's just the group. But I do know I fired at least 1 at the center target. So let's Oh, hey, look at this. We got a keyhole with 140 grain. I think it's a flat base. I don't think they have boat tails. Could be wrong. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that again, and I'm there. Okay, the gun has cooled down. It's no longer scorching hot to the touch. These are my last 3 of the Nosler, 140 grain, and I already put a chrono to them. I'll be sure to add that footage in. And these go a little bit above 2,700 feet per second when they leave the muzzle. That's because probably whatever rifle they used or test apparatus they used for that is probably, I don't know, 20, 23 inches. This is a 29-inch goddamn barrel. So we're going to see more velocity. Anyway, so let's see how these do, because I have a working theory that these are loaded pretty hot, and I already know this is a long, thin barrel that affects harmonics, especially if things heat up. I think that's probably the issue. So let's see. I just fired those 3 shots, and it's hot to touch. Like, I could keep my hand on there, but it wouldn't be fun. I want to show this off. This is the focus, you bastard. There we go. Okay, now look at this. The primer is not flattened, but you can see cratering. On the flip side, right there, flattened primer, like really flattened primer. I'm surprised I didn't spot that sooner. But the inconsistency. So even though some of these are fired in very rapid succession, I'm wondering if just simply having them in the chamber for those couple seconds was enough to affect the pressure. But otherwise, like, this is a very hot loaded round. And yikes. Yikes. Yeah, I usually don't get cratering, so I'm not sure if that's just a really soft primer or what, but just looking across it, like, I'm actually a little bit scared. Let's walk up. Let's take a look at the targets. I'll have to admit, when I bought a small ring Mauser built over 100 years ago, you read online on the forums and people talk about how weak the action is. It's actually not a weak action. It's weak by modern standards, but ooh, yeah. So even okay. Now I'm not seeing anything that's obviously new here. I'm gonna have to check some like old footage, but I was aiming at the left target, and yeah, you can see I have these over there. This is from my 303 British. Ignore those. I'm just reusing targets because this is just for fun. But that's the only round that hit paper, so that scares me. The other ones, actually, these up here look new. So that's still not a very good showing. That makes me feel a lot better about my hand loads. But yikes. Well, there's $30 down the drain. There, the more you know. So this is really weird. So 7mm Mauser, reformed Hornady brass, and I believe this is Enduron. I'll mark it down. 49.55, and minimum charge, as you can see there, pretty standard. Really, what's changed is kind of the point of impact. Now, next step up, kind of went to garbage. 1, 2, and then 3. 1, 2, 3. And then the maximum charge, point of impact shift, but I believe that's a tighter group overall, so I'm pretty happy with that. A little bit of verticality, or stringing, whatever you want to call it. Whatever. So, maximum charge, minimum charge, I'll put the graduations and editing, and we'll go from there.